you're at a middle school, and what are the so you came back and you implemented some of the strategies there. So what are the what are the things that you decided to come back and implement, and what are the one when and how did that go? How was that experience in going about doing that?
Yeah. So I would say, you know, the the reason we started looking kind of down that road is the state of Massachusetts, like probably many states, really they passed a law that really had us before suspending students, putting them out of the building, that we couldn't just do that the way we were. The suspension numbers were really high everywhere. It wasn't, and they, you had to try some sort of, I don't think the word that they used was restorative, but, in essence, you've got to try some alternative methods besides just sending them home, sending them out of school, right? So it really was coming from the state. And then luckily, and you cover this and you say this a lot, but like the push has to be from the top. So, the district leadership is saying, look at this is the direction we're moving in. We have to for the law, but it's also right for kids. It's the right way to change behavior. So we had, top down telling us, but also supporting us, right? Like, look at this is so we all, and I'm an old school, I've been in education for 30 years. So my early years in admin, like I'm embarrassed to think about how we used to suspend kids for, in another district I work in, if we called them down to see them about something and they didn't report, we'd send them home for a day for noncompliance. I just think now of how far my thinking has come in my practices, but like, I think that's what we can't be, what are we doing, So, so I would say that that's sort of how we got there. And, absolutely. So we came back from the training and had really had the summer to sort of think about, okay, what are we going to change? And I would say one of the things we did change and we still do is instead of a suspension, right, we do the structured days. And those have been great. And I think our suspensions are probably cut in half. It's been that was a really great thing that we put into place. I would say that we would do, one of the things we would do too is, I'm just thinking of like our first ones and some of them, like when we have a bus incident, when students are disrespectful or really bad behavior, right? We would, no bus for the week, right? But, we would have, a couple times we've had students prepare a presentation that we would then show to our rising students coming up to the school for the first time. This is how we behave on a bus, right? So they would make the presentation. So I think, really thinking about different projects, accountability projects, I think we call them, right? Structured days. And I think we've always, one of the pieces that really drew us to your practice around this is just the partnership with families is really huge, right? And we always had that, but when I always think of it as a triangle with the student in the middle, and you can put the parents, school, and student anywhere, but you really need teachers, you need everybody around that, and you need that parent piece, you need that conversation happening at home and walking with you. So, so I would say, the structured day has been really great. The kids, nobody likes being suspended, right? Nobody likes to go home, but the structured day is, just enough accountability there. We're taking away that social piece of their day. They're getting their academics and, it's just a good balance. So I would say that was a great takeaway. And then the projects around different issues. If there's been a technology infraction of inappropriate use of a, piece of technology here at school, we've got some great projects lined up for that. And we keep building that repertoire, which has been great. So,
No, definitely. Like the one thing that and I appreciate you sharing your experience with it. The one thing that a lot of times people I think get confused with because they hear the fact that okay, I was at an elementary, but they don't necessarily listen to, I think, or they're not able to make that connection that these particular strategies are for the older kids more than anything else. Like,
mhm.
so we were really having to adapt the strategies to our younger students, but they were perfect for our
Mhm.
older students, like our fifth and sixth grade. They were perfect for them because really the challenge, I think, at the elementary level when it comes to behavior is really the fifth and the older students. I wouldn't even say just because it could be fifth or it could be sixth if you have six on your campus. And the reason why that's the challenge, like, because some people would say, well, no, well, the kindergarten and the first graders are the craziest. Well, kind of, yeah, you're right. Like, there's no argument from me there.
Yeah.
But there's also more understanding from adults that they are who they are
Mhm.
because they don't know any better at this particular point. The older kids get, there's a less grace that people give,
Mhm.
even though they might be in the same situation as the younger students, because they, you can't just now say they don't know what they're doing there, because people just make the assumption that they must know what they're doing, because cognitively they should be developed much more, and they are developed much more than our younger students. But in reality, their behavior is going to resemble the younger students' behavior if behavior hasn't been established and taught prior to
Mhm.
that point with them either. So that's one of those things to where getting the strategies, and when you actually take a look at them, they're actually best applied and easiest to apply at the middle school, high school level, because those
Yes.
kids can actually take it to where you really want them to take it. If you give them a project, you
Mhm.
can give them the project as you want to give it to them, because
Mhm.
they have the ability to do it.
Correct.
Where if you give a first grader an accountability project, you're going to have to modify your expectations and how they're going to go about doing it. They're not going to do it on a computer.
Right.
Like, that's just not
Yeah.
going to happen. So most of the strategies are truly best for the older students, but they can definitely be applied to the younger students as well. So I'm glad, you're at a middle school and yet you came back and were able to go, because the goal is for us to get really that group under control so
Mhm.
we can get them to the high school to where, it's hopefully, I wouldn't say smooth sailing, but before
Yes.
they get to that level of independence, you really need to get some structure in place, and really self-discipline
Right.
for our kids in place at that point. So that's definitely something
Yeah.
I
Yeah. I
appreciate.
could not agree more.